A dog barks when his master is attacked. I would be a coward if I saw that God's truth is attacked and yet would remain silent. John Calvin.
Get in a long tube with a bunch of demons.
Really believe that human beings are demons.
No, I do not. And don't you ever say I did.
This is my Bible. I am what it says I am.
There's probably a balance between, I believe you have to know Christ, but
God is in hell. He is. And someone knows this for sure.
all of mankind is going to end up somewhere in heaven.
My mission really is to just help people of faith, especially, to re-examine this issue, to realise the church has got things wrong in the past.
For those who are God's by faith in his Son.
Corinthians, right? 2 Corinthians 3:7.
Victory in the name which is above every name.
There's no exception for rape or incest. It's an extreme law.
Right now, bones, ligaments, tendons, in Jesus' name. Get out here right now.
So put your trust in the sovereign risen king, who doesn't owe you one cotton picking thing. And yet he still promises to furnish his disciples, but we take what he's created and we turn him into idols. I'll never back down, so how can I keep it in? But you'll never see me preaching the sin of TBM. Yeah, spirit and truth is worship viewed in this chemistry, but some are spewing distorted views of the Trinity. They're with the enemy there, lies have been bought. Whether you like it or not, you will either get shot. No reverence from these reverends, only pathetic benevolence who claims to heal without a shred of medical evidence. They in the public side, lukewarmer than kitchens. On live television saying Mormons are Christians. I'm not throwing stones, I'm simply shouting the truth. So if you never knew, now you're without an excuse. If you still wanna play with them cards, then let's run them. Cause even Satan speaks through others like Jeff Dunham. So who are you with? Denies a gray area. Don't make another preacher lie when they bury ya.
If you're going to heaven and you know you ain't got no sin in your life, you still time that.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Master's Dog False Teacher of the Week, episode 12. I am your host, the Evangelical Norm. So, for those who might be new to this, the False Teacher of the Week is a segment of the Master's Dog podcast where I have been going through the intro video and explaining how each person is a false teacher, or why I consider them a false teacher, why they're in that intro video at all. If you're listening online, there's actually an intro video. You can hear a few of the people speaking, but there's just a bunch of pictures and video clips of false teachers all put together under Result Song No Compromise. So if you are listening online, head over to the YouTube channel and just take a look at that intro video. You know, grab any episode of the Master's Dog and watch the first 2.5 minutes and you'll get the video, and so you'll understand what is going on. So essentially somebody had come to me and said, you know, I don't know who all these people are or why, you know, you got Oprah in there. How's Oprah a false teacher, you know? And so they were like, can you kind of break that down? And so I decided to do every Saturday, I drop an episode of the False Teacher of the Week and going through that. And then I intend to go on past the end of the video. I mean, we're going to get probably another 20 episodes just off the people who are listed in the episodes or in the intro video. I got a stack of cards here of all the people in that video. And so, yeah, you can see we've got quite a few to get through, and then we'll continue on. I've actually had a few people throw up some suggestions in the comments and through Twitter and so on. I've had a few people hit me up. So, you know, hit the subscribe button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, get all the content we get there. You can follow me on Twitter at Evangelical Norm or at the Master's Dog. Or you can follow my my really fun account, Grumpy the Troll, and or you can follow me over on Facebook if you don't already. So this week, our false teacher of the week, we are on episode number 12, and our false teacher is none other than Pat Robertson. So this is another one I've kind of been looking forward to. I've kind of followed Pat Robertson for quite some time, and he just continues. Here's what happens. I mean, we see it with Joe Biden. As people get older, a lot of times, I don't know if it's a dementia thing or if it's I don't think that Pat Robertson has Alzheimer's or anything like that, but you can take, and I don't think Pat Robertson was ever really, I mean, I can't say he was never a solid teacher in any way, shape, or form. He did get, he graduated from the Biblical Seminary of New York, and where he got an MDiv there. He was ordained as a preacher in the Southern Baptist Convention, even though he's very charismatic and pretty Pentecostal. But he's a Southern Baptist preacher. So he may have been, at one point in time, had some fairly good teaching, but over time he's just gotten worse and worse and worse. So we'll kind of get into it. But here's a little background on our friend Pat Robertson. He was actually born Marion Gordon Robertson. His oldest son is Gordon. Marion Gordon Robertson, and he went by his nickname. I don't know where you get the nickname Pat from that, but he didn't think Marion was masculine enough. He thought M. Gordon was a little too, what was, I can't, the word that he was used, quoted out of his book, was affected. Okay, so he went by Pat. He was born to a Democrat senator. His father was a senator in the Democrat Party, Absalom Robertson. In 1948, he was drafted. He chose to join the Marines. Good on him. Was served in the Korean War, but mostly in an office in Japan. He never saw combat because of the influence of his senator father. 1955, he graduated, went back to Yale, graduated from Yale with a law degree, but he failed to pass the bar, and he only took it once, never tried to take it again. Basically said he didn't feel like his heart was in it, and that's when he went to seminary. Again, he went to the Biblical Seminary in New York, graduated from there with an MDiv in 1959. In 1960, he established the Christian Broadcasting Network, or CBN, which over the years has morphed into different things. But I mean, it's maintained as CBN, but it's branched out into other stuff, the 700 Club and so on. And I never actually checked into this for sure, but I think the name the 700 Club came from if you had donated like $700. I don't know if it was annually or monthly or what, but to become part of the 700 Club, you had to donate $700 to CBN. So 1988, he I don't like to use the word renounce. There's a word, but it escapes me right now. I've been actually trying to think about it since I prepped for this episode. But he let go of his ordination. He renounced his ordination, resigned his ordination. Can you resign an ordination as opposed to resigning a commission? But he gave up his ordination as a Baptist preacher to run for president. Now, I don't know if it's actually necessary to do that. I would really have to look into. I know that it's apparently frowned upon to be an ordained minister. It doesn't help your chances at becoming president or gaining the nomination. But I don't know that you have to actually, back out of any ordinations or anything like that in order to run for president. That'd be an interesting thing to look into. But in 1998, he had his failed presidential bid. So that's just a little history on him. And then after that, he went back to CBN and has been, the main commentator on there since. And been doing it a whole long time. So I think I probably first came across Pat and the 700 Club where I really started kind of paying attention. I would say probably 95, 96, somewhere in there, as I was in the midst of my transition from Mormonism through Islam and into nominal Christianity. I think it had to have been 96. I think that was when 96 was when I kind of said, okay, I'm not going to be a Muslim anymore. I'm just going to be a Christian, and wasn't really in any way, shape, or form a Christian at that point in time. So I was by name only. I claimed it, wore a cross, got some Christian t-shirts, but in no way was I saved at all. But this was about the time that I started paying attention to things that were going on in the 700 Club, and it never sat right with me. I mean, I watched, and there were some good things on there. Some of the musical guests, I mean, some of my favorite artists from the mid the mid 90s to early 2000s, I learned about through the 700 Club. People like Out of Eden, Anointed, End-Time Warriors. I think I saw Unity Clan on there initially. I think I even saw Cross Movement through the 700 Club. That's how I came across a Cross Movement. So I could be mistaken on that. Don't hold me to that one. I don't know if the Cross Movement's ever been on there. I don't want to impugn them in any way, but again, I was on the 700 Club. My testimony was shown on the 700 Club. Well, Norm, how can you call him a false teacher? Look, I had an opportunity to share. I've always said I'll share anytime I can, anywhere I can, as long as you don't restrict my ability to say anything. They did edit it a bit. I wasn't real happy with the editing of my testimony on the 700 Club, but again, it wasn't horrible. So, but we're not talking about me. I digress. Sorry, I got a little off track there. But so the first thing that I ever heard him say that I went, that's just not right, was during one of their big fundraising drives. And I heard him he was talking about rock and roll and heavy metal and stuff like that, how it's all of the devil and stuff like that. And he started talking about bands, and one of the bands he mentioned was KISS. And he said, KISS really stands for Knights in Satan's Service. And I was like, no, that's not true. I wasn't sure, they talked about WASP was We Are Sexual People, Rush was Ruled Under Satan's Hand. Every 4-letter heavy metal band name, they came up with some acronym where it was all satanic. But when he said KISS, I'm like, no. Because I know the story behind how KISS came up with their name. It's not an acronym. It is not anything of KISS or anything like that. They named the band KISS because as they were driving down the road, somebody threw out another 4-letter word that's often given an acronym that who knows whether it actually is true or not, but they wanted to name it a 4-letter word, which acronym was for unlawful carnal knowledge, right? And they were like, well, we can't name it that, so how about we name it KISS? And they was like, oh, okay. So, and so... much like Jack Chick in his cartoon tracks, comic book track kind of things, they're exaggerating these things. Now, there's enough stuff out there. I mean, you can just take some of the songs that some of these heavy metal bands were playing, and make a case for them to be somewhat satanic. I mean, Motley Crue intentionally used a pentagram and stuff like that, and songs, Shout at the Devil and stuff like that, to give an appearance of Satanism. But a lot of times those were just used as shock value to draw attention of rebellious youth trying to get away from their parents. In no way do I think any of these bands, well, I can't say any of them, but majority of them were not satanic in any way. I'm sure Motley Crue, KISS was not, even though the gigs that they used, just the gigs, gags, whatever you want to call them, gave the appearance, the makeup that Kiss wore, the kind of mime-ish makeup, which was I can't remember the style of theater in Japan that was attributed to, but so these things kind of gave an appearance. But that was the first time I heard him say something, and I went, you know what? It's just not right. And then, but over the years, he's made other outlandish claims that just aren't true. That you're trying to preach the gospel and you're trying to give warnings and stuff, but to lie about things, again, this is my issue with Jack Chick. He's making things up in order to try to convince people to avoid sin or whatever. Stories about they actually had to come back and do a retraction on this, where he talked about that homosexuals in San Francisco were wearing rings with like razor blades of some kind or something. So when you'd go to shake their hands, they would cut you and they would give you AIDS. And that was one that they had to come back and renounce. A big one that really made a lot of actual, like, different news stories was, I can't remember how many years ago it was fairly recently, but caused a huge stir, was when they'll get questions every so often. And he's answering a question from a lady who writes in that says, a friend of mine's wife has Alzheimer's disease, and he's wanting to know if he can, move on, basically because his wife, as he knows her, is gone, and can he, move on and marry someone else. And Pat basically said, make sure she has some kind of guardianship and then divorce her. And that threw up red flags everywhere, because it's like, one, we understand, and even the co-host, Terry Mewson, was like, well, wait, don't we take a vow till death do us part? And I think his comment was, well, she's basically dead already. She's not there. She's not the wife that he knew. So an encouragement to divorce, which we all know, scripturally, there's no reason at that point to divorce. We vow to be married for, till death do us part, in good and bad and healthy, and in sickness and in health and so on. So that was a huge thing that was really kind of a big deal that brought a lot of publicity. And then he's had a whole lot of false prophecies that he's made. In 1982, he had prophesied, and I guess he does this like towards the beginning of the year, like New Year's. He gives like his list of prophecies that God gives to him. 82 was there was going to be a worldwide judgment from God, was going to come at some point in time during 1982, which of course never happened. 2012, he predicted that Mitt Romney was going to win that 2012 election, that Obama was going to lose. Of course, we know that was right. I want to say in 2004, he predicted that George Bush was going to win by a landslide that election, which we know, it wasn't super close, but by no means would we have said it was a landslide. So a lot of false prophecies that he's given over time. One thing I can say, he's never, as far as I know, never set a date. Been one of those guys, but he has made a whole lot of false prophecies. And then, of course, what the 700 Club is very much known for is faith healing and essentially name it, claim it kind of word, faith, prosperity, gospel kind of thing. You'll always hear, sow your seed kind of thing, and God is going to bless you more. And the more you give, the more God's going to give to you. And then they do the whole word of knowledge, real kind of vague healing kind of stuff, where they get on and they're like, well, somebody out there who's watching right now has pain in their right shoulder, and God is going to heal that right. You're going to feel a burning in your shoulder. So these really vague kind of things, and you've even heard them use like very specific things. But again, when you're talking to an audience of 100,000, nobody knows when you're wrong. You can come on there and someone's watching, and your name is Sandy, and right now you're having you've just been diagnosed with breast cancer, and we want you to know that God is removing that, right? That kind of thing, right? And so no ability to verify any of these miracles that supposedly happened. I mean, of course, you'll get people who will come on and give testimonies. I went on and gave my testimony because, I mean, it wasn't anything that I was, I saw a story on the 700 Club about a woman who came out of witchcraft, and I had been involved in witchcraft, and then I called and prayed with a counselor, but God had already done the saving part of that earlier in that day. If you want to know that, I'll put a link to my testimony in the description. You can go watch that episode 3 or episode 2 and episode 4 of the Evangelical Norm. You go back in the YouTube channel. Those are my testimonies, and then you can find my 700 Club and a couple others where I've given my testimony, and you can see where that comes up. So I'll throw a couple of links of that in the description. So now I just totally lost my train of thought. Oh, okay. So they'll have people come on and they'll give testimonies and say this happened, but there's no real verifiable evidence of these miracles. There's no real verifiable evidence of, great wealth coming after contributing to the 700 Club. And it's always, we were down to our last $10 and we gave, and God blessed us, and now we have multi-million or whatever. So those are the things that really kind of surround Pat Robertson, and as he gets older, it seems to just get more outlandish and ridiculous, some of the things he said. I said it 10 years ago that dude should have retired and just faded into obscurity, but he just kept talking, and then the things that he said just continued to get worse and worse and worse. So there you have our false teacher for the week for this week, Pat Robertson, prosperity preacher, false prophet, completely disqualified to be a minister of the gospel of Jesus Christ. And so there you have it, Pat Robertson, false teacher of the week, number 12. And as always, preach the gospel at all times. Use words, they're necessary. And until next week, Soli Deo Gloria.